Hey, what's up, everybody? So I want to talk to you about how do you take time out away from your business and not stress over how do you plan it out for the entire year. And so if that is something that you're interested in and you want to design a life first business, then tap into this podcast episode. Hey, great day, everybody. So just quick disclaimer, I am in the community today. I am on my way to Los Angeles from my home, which is about an hour and a half drive. I wanted to pop in here to do a little quick video around how do you take time out away from your business and how do you specifically plan it out strategically where you are not stressed out. And so the first thing that I want to do is recommend a book. I think that this is the great time of year during the fall where you decide where your next year is going to go, where your first quarter is going to fall. And I want to recommend this book called Clockwork. And so it is two versions of the book. I would highly recommend that you purchase the book like on Amazon. I'll drop my link below to my Amazon store with the book. And then also, if you have Audible, I would highly recommend that you actually listen to the Audible because it feels more like a mini course in the palm of your hand. And so this topic came about when I was working with one of our VIP clients in our Therapist Scale Academy this week. I am in the middle of November right now. And we were talking about how do you curate a schedule that works for your life and for your business for the fourth quarter, but more specifically, the first quarter. And so I started sharing with her, which I'm gonna do with you right now, but I started sharing with her some ideas around how not to get overwhelmed with trying to plan out the whole year and have an idea. Yes, I'm a big visionary, but at the same time, you can take one quarter at a time. And then I gave her a technique, and literally on the Zoom, it was like, she was like, woo, like a weight lifted off of her shoulder. And so I wanna share with you the process that I created back in 2023 that set the tone for, if I look at the last 5 years of my business and specifically how my business was able to feed my life, whether it be time, whether it be self-care, whether it be just being away from the office doing nothing, and or even vacations and everything in between. I would say that my best year technically started in August of 2022, and I'll share with you why. And then it lasted the whole 2023. So in August of 2022, I hosted my first big conference. It was called Therapists Deserve Abundance Conference. If you attended, go ahead and comment in the box and say, hey, I was there. I deserve abundance. And so, and P.S., if you're listening to this, if it makes it over to the audio podcast, just hop over to YouTube. I put the link in the description box. Just hop over here and like drive with me, okay? Because I'm driving to this nonprofit. And so, nevertheless, I had the conference and I saw in that moment how important it was with one activity that we did for even service providers to get an understanding, a increased level of awareness to where their time is being divided into and their desires tied into goals that they have for their personal life and their business, you know, just how do they feel in a level of satisfaction? So we did our own variation of the life wheel. And I remember one young lady, a therapist, walked up to me on day 2 and she said, listen, the panels were phenomenal. The breakout sessions were phenomenal. All these things were great. She said, I'm gonna be real. If you would have just ended the conference after the first hour, after we introduced ourselves and we did that life wheel activity with your prompts, I would have been satisfied. And I said, oh, this is a thing, right? Now, this was something that I had incorporated in my private practice as well. And then I did a CE workshop to tell therapists how to do it. So if you are also interested in more life first business by design with private practice, mental health business, CE workshops for 2026, also drop that in the comments because I used to do CE workshops almost every month, and then I slowed it down, and then I slowed it down. And then this year, I really only had 3, and one of them was embedded in a live event. So if you want me to bring those back, listen, I got time on my hands, so go ahead and, let me know. So moving forward, let me just give you a recap of what happened that year. So I continue to record audio podcasts with a mix of some vlogs. I really started to get into, I'm gonna call lifestyle vlogs, where I was going with my family to, Disney World. We went on a Disney cruise. We went to Paris, London, and then I wrapped up the year, at home with my family or whatnot. And so the year capped out just on like a phenomenal level. Okay. So then I went into 2023 and I had no intention of doing another conference. And they were like, bring it back. And I was like, y'all, a conference is a lot of work and a lot of money out of my pocket before you even decide to pay. And unfortunately, what people don't understand is that you have kind of like a wedding, you have to pay for the venue before people buy tickets, and I used to plan my events out a year in advance, and people would try to wait until like a month before the event to buy their ticket, and I'm like, yo, this is not helping, and so, and honestly, the more people that came and did like the pre-sale tickets or the early bird tickets, the better experience I'm going to say that I'm able to provide because of the revenue that's coming in to pay for the venue space, because a lot of it was out of my pocket. But we're not gonna go into that right now, right? If I can find them on YouTube, I will link my event chit chats down below. Some of them will be on Apple Podcasts, and then some of them will be right here on YouTube. So moving forward, I went into 2023 and our programs were doing, great with enrollment. Of course, some things had changed due to economical shifts and, just a lot of things. But I entered into that year saying, I really want to take my schedule up a notch more seriously. And so my husband and my two sons will go get their hair cut at minimum every 2 weeks. Like my husband gets his hair cut every week, but the boys will go every other week. So what I started to do is say, hey, let's go out to the mall. We probably need to do this again, but we need to, let's go out to the mall. Let's go out to eat. Let's go see the grandparents, all the things, because we do not live close to our family. We live about, with no traffic, about a 45-minute drive. But the kids are in activities, things like that in school. And so let's go. I'll go with you to get your hair cut, but I'm going to drop y'all off. I found a local Starbucks that has the inside where you can sit down with, of course, free Wi-Fi. And make sure that you use a VPN. If you don't know what a VPN is, that is your way of protecting your information while you're working outside of your home. And honestly, you can even turn on your VPN, especially if you live like in an apartment complex, townhome complex, and things like that, just so that if somebody's walking by, they can't, hack your stuff. And so if that's something that you need, I'll link up the VPN that I use when I'm traveling and all the things. The only caveat, though, I've realized is when I'm physically on the plane. It works in the airport, but when I'm on the plane, it won't let me connect to the Wi-Fi on the plane. I have to turn the VPN off. You may be able to turn it back on after, but I noticed that it doesn't work when I'm in the sky. What ended up happening when I would go to these Starbucks, and I had already read the clock book, the clockwork book like 2-3 times over. I had actually invested in a $10,000 course with the clockwork people to map out my back office in a way where I was scaling my time to eventually work up to a month off. Now, one of their recommendations is you start taking off small increments at a time. It wasn't that I had not had like 1 or 2 weeks off at a time. I usually do that between Christmas and New Year's, and I come back the first full week of a Monday after New Year's. But I really wanted to incorporate time off throughout the year, for big chunks at a time, especially as it relates to like, me wanting to spend time with the kids when they're out of school, et cetera. So one day I'm sitting in Starbucks and it came to me, and this is what I shared with my client yesterday. It came to me, why don't I focus on days, not weeks or months? What do I mean by that? Instead of me saying I want to take off 2 months in the whole year, how many days are in 2 months? Well, typically it's 60. So what would happen if I looked at the regular days of the week that I worked, which was typically Monday through Friday, even though some days were admin days, CEO days, those were still days that I would still consider me working, right? And so if you work on Saturdays, you would include Saturdays, okay? So you may say, like, I low-key be working 6 days a week, be honest with yourself. And so I said, okay, what if I worked my way up for a year to 60 days off? When I say that was a game changer, because it took the pressure off of me trying to figure out with a complicated, being real here, okay, complicated family schedule. I don't have a complicated business schedule. My schedule does not stay the same every week because I have programs that meet, once a month, programs that meet twice a month, depending on the time of year. I may meet with one group of clients twice a month, and then on the next month, one of my support coaches is coming in. So I know that my work schedule, for the most part, changes in terms of the days of the week that I work, but my hours typically don't change unless I'm in a launch period, where I typically try to, my best, work and I'm off work by the time my son gets off of school. But, being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, sometimes it doesn't work like cookie cutter, right? That's just not going to happen if you're a business owner. There's going to be seasons where you're going to be working in the evening, in the midday, in the morning. And so I went to, I think, Walmart or Target at the time. You can go on Amazon too. If I can find some, I'll link them below through like Walmart, because Walmart has a lot of them. And I was purchasing these $6 monthly calendars. So the reason why those worked better for me, and at one point I even, I'll link up an annual calendar as well. So the reason why these calendars worked well is, when you do the daily schedule, you're only looking at your day and or your week. But when you have to look at your life in a month, and let's just say you have a calendar, you got to be all personality type A like me, but I'm just going to say, what I started to do is I had a calendar just to plan out my launches and content. And so I would get like the different color pens, and I would put, let's just say, my launches in pink. And I always start with the end goal in mind, right? And so I will put, my launches in pink, my podcast in blue or something like that. But here's the catch. Before you plug in any of this, I want you to get a different color or a highlighter pen, and I want you to go put in the days that you want offers. So for example, if I know that my sons are both off the whole week of Thanksgiving, and this is October, but we're talking about for next year, I'm going to go and block out no appointments, no clients, not even a team meeting, which means we need to double up the week before if that's how you want to do it. It really depends on maybe how long you've been in business. It also depends on what systems you have in business. And this is why, I heavily focus on in our programs, systems first, marketing second. Because if you don't have the systems to catch the people who are coming through your marketing funnels, it doesn't matter. You're going to get overwhelmed. You're going to get burnt out. You're going to quit. Okay? And I don't want you to quit. So quitting is also, to me, indicative of how happy you are in your business. And the happier you are in your life, the more fulfilled you are in your business because you show up with a better mood. So I plugged in, I pulled up my son's schedule for the whole year. One of my kids, his schedule will come out every freaking year. The other kid, his schedule came out 3 years at a time. Okay, this one of the school districts is way more organized than the other. So with my youngest son, I have a schedule for the whole 3 years. He has a different type of school schedule than the eldest because they're 7 years apart. And so I literally plugged in all of his school breaks in which I know I want to be off, whether that is me going out of town. I didn't get that deep yet. We do it in layers, okay? And if you want me to go into more details, we can do like a whole series. Matter of fact, let's make it a series, but let me know if you're interested though. Like, let me know, how do you plan your vacations within your business schedule and what that looks like. So I first planned out, like, where do I want to be off in accordance with the vacations that I know I take every year. Like, we go to Walt Disney World at least once a year. We go to Alani, Disney, Hawaii, at least minimum every other year. We were going every year, but we slowed down. And so I blocked out all that time. Then I circled back and I plugged in my launches, work with the end goal in mind. So I plugged in the launches for the main bigger programs, right? I did not personally plug in things like Black Friday because that's a given. That will eventually make it to the calendar, but I was looking at things that would consume energy that I'm used to, but it's a longer block out of time than Black Friday on the calendar with me showing up. I'll say that. And I really love live launches. So after I did all of that, then, and I want you to see how strategically I did this, because I know when my products are going to launch, then I plugged in how many podcasts do I want to create, maybe for the year. I've done that for 2 years straight where I did 100 podcasts. Crazy, right? And then I want to look at how many podcasts do I want to release each week, especially, let's just say 60 days leading up to the launch, the open enrollment period for our coaching programs. So because I was so intentional with that, it felt like ease, even though I got to show up and do the work, because I knew what my business expected out of me. Let's just say if I'm an employee of my business. So I got to clock in. This month, I need to clock in 30 hours a week. This week, I'm clocking in 5 hours a week. And so this is why if you watch me on social media, sometimes my stories are empty. Sometimes I post every day educational content because that allows me to withdraw my face and my voice from social media. I can still create content and or I can delegate it, but right now I handle my own social media because, I post as I get downloads. Probably not the best thing for time strategy, but I used to do a lot of prep for my content. And while it helped during that season, I just found that I create better when I have received messages from God, downloads, and just more clarity. And a lot of times, that happens for me every single day. And it happens after I leave the gym. And so if I have it in me to say, oh man, this will be 2 good podcast episodes, then I'll write it down, But I hope that you can see that strategically. So let me just recap. I will go out of my home, because I didn't emphasize that part, to Starbucks. And the great part about being there and somebody got to call you to pick them up is that I am limited with time blocking, which means I know I have a max if they're all 3 getting their haircuts. I got a max of about 1.5 hours, maybe 2 hours. So I'm going to lean on the side of I have 1.5 hours. So that means that when I'm dropping them off, I'm already putting in my mobile order. Soon as I come in, I'm opening up my laptop, logging into the VPN and Starbucks internet, and I am pulling out my calendar. And as I have my calendar in check, let's just say if that was the first week, then the next week what I'm doing is I'm planning out my podcast and or my content for the next upcoming month. Then it breaks down to the next upcoming week. So it got to the point where Starbucks became my office. Moral of the story is, once I started getting the hang of this is my routine for that whole year, the reason why I say this year reflected for me in my schedule, in my income, the best year of my life is because I also within that schedule carved out time for self-care. So this was a rule for myself, and write it down. Let me know if you like this in the chat box. Like actually put in the comment box, self-care, if this is something that you want to incorporate. Y'all got to talk back to me like we're doing a live session, right? So I said I want to do one self-care activity every single week. So even though health and wellness, going to the gym and self-care, that's a given. That's like already in my schedule. So self-care for me meant I have a membership for a massage and or a facial, but I can always pay for extra. So in some months, I dedicated to doing like both. I would pay like the $70, $80 for the other service. So let's just say week 1, I got my hair done. And usually if I have like a weave, I don't drive down to LA, to get my hair done every single 2 weeks. I could, but it's just, I'm good. I don't sweat my hair out that much. I wrap up my hair when I go to the gym. It's good. And so 1 week may be I go get my hair done. The next week is going to be I go get my nails done and pedicure and eyebrows done and stuff. Or I may even switch it and say the 3rd week I go get a massage. It don't matter, right? It also depends on their availability, so I will switch it around. And that's what I do in that little meeting with myself is I will plug all of this on my calendar, but I have the goal in mind. I'm going to do a self-care activity every single day. Now, your self-care may not have to cost money. It can be, if it's nice weather, you go hiking. It can be you go, honestly, I used to get out of my house and just walk around the store. by myself, no kids, okay? So 1 week would be mani-pedi, then the next week would be a facial. If there's a week where I don't do, like, especially the massage and the facial, then if it's summer, I go to the pool. Like, I find something to do that's self-care oriented to making me feel good, okay? We also incorporated date days, aka money dates, with my husband. Now, that's something that we need to get better at. We actually just brought it back last week. And we used to go to restaurants, but, you know, I told him, like, we don't always need to go to get something to eat. Like, there will be times we would just go, if the weather's nice, we would actually go sit at Starbucks, but outside, where we can get some vitamin D. You know, I get my little egg bites or oatmeal or something with a drink. He gets his, and we just chill outside for an hour, and then we go back home. And then sometimes we would go to breakfast or something. But bottom line is, what I want to share with you is that planning out your year does not have to be stressful. But what I do find that's stressful is when you put together 5,000 things that you want to accomplish that year versus 3 main categories, and then you take your time to plan it out around your life. Now, as I wrap up, you know, again, as a disclaimer, I understand, and believe me, I've been through woes multiple seasons, okay, in terms of financial hardship. And I do air quotes because everybody has their own definition of financial hardship. Like, financial hardship for me is all of my bills are paid, my rent is paid, but I don't have enough overflow to do all the things that I want to do. Been there. I've also had financial hardships during my maternity leave where my money ran out, where I was put on bed rest at 5 months pregnant, but I had saved up for a certain amount of time. I think I saved up for, let's just say, 3 months post-maternity. Well, no, I saved up for 1 month pre-maternity leave and 2 months post-maternity leave. Well, what happened with the other 3 months that I was out because they pulled me out at 5 months pregnant? So we were cool, but my mortgage was late. My credit cards were late. My credit score took a serious hit, probably because of that mortgage, where I did build it up after my son was born, and we were able to, like, get this car at like a crazy 1% interest rate. The credit union gifted me the money and said, go find a car. So I found this car. It was a 2015 BMW. My car is paid off, okay? And it's crazy. Let me just, like, slide this in here. Just, hey, this ain't got nothing to do with this podcast. But, like, last week, and I get it from time to time, sometimes I'll do like a spend the day in the life with me as a psychologist, right? And sometimes I'll record, like, my dashboard of me putting my drink down, and they'll see, like, the BMW sign, right? And some people will comment like trolls, okay? And these are things that should not get you off your game, okay? But I have trolls that will say, with no picture, no real name, so I don't even take it seriously. I snapshot it, I laugh, me and my husband, and then I hide it. I block them from my page. But they'll say things like, you know, if you got a BMW, then why are you drinking at Starbucks? You should be able to have more high quality coffee than that. And I'm like, first of all, I got the goddamn tea, okay, and oatmeal. Second of all, I don't know about you, but I prefer not to have a car note. Like, that's not something that I'm really excited to do, even though we want 2 new cars, because these cars are aging. But I think a flex is not having a car note. A flex is saying, I done paid off a $30,000 car and a $50,000 car in 3 years. I think that's pretty cool, right? And so let me know in the chat box, like, do you value a car note? Or would you prefer to be driving around in a car that works for you, gets you to where you need to go, and it's still nice? You feel me? And so I digress. Nevertheless, let me know what was your biggest takeaway from this. Matter of fact, let's close out so that I know you got to the end of the video. I want you to make sure that you answered all them questions I gave you in between, like for the CEs, let your girl know. If you want me to break more of this down in a series, give me your questions so we can do the series, but I'll brainstorm as well, especially around, like, vacation. And stay tuned, because I'm gonna give you an uncut version of what 2023 brought us, so don't go nowhere. And then, because I know that you made it past, like, the educational part of the podcast, I want you to put down in the comment box, how many days for next year do you want to take off? So don't just say 2 weeks, tell me days, because your 2 weeks may be 10 days in a week. And see, that's the thing. You don't want to count days that you're already off. So, count days, because that means that you're taking off more days. And what I also let my client know is when I was doing that, this is really important, sorry. It gave me permission to say, this week I want 1 day off. Next week I want 3 days off. 3 weeks from now I want 5 days off. And you can play around with it because you're stacking up the days. So put down below how many days in the year do you want to take off? And let's move to the uncut version. Okay, so let's do a little uncut here, okay? And so I am going to break down what I did in 2023 that lit me up, okay? So if we go business-wise, we opened up enrollment for our Dope Therapist Academy Profitable Private Practice Program. If you want to learn more about that program, just check out the show notes. If we have some type of multi-day experience, then we will let you know down below. We also continued serving our mastermind clients. Let's see, 2021. Yeah, we did a more intimate cohort of our mastermind clients where we had 2 in-person events. By March, I decided that I was going to do the Therapists Deserve Abundance Conference again. So we did it in October in Las Vegas at the Palms Hotel. It was so nice. It was about 45 to 50 therapists who came. Also in that year, was that the year? I think that was the year that I went to Atlanta and I was the keynote speaker for the Millennial Social Worker Conference. So I was suggested by somebody in our community, thank you in advance. They wanted someone to come in and talk about entrepreneurship with the social workers. So I went there in March. I continued my nonprofit collaboration work with different types of contracts doing mental health workshops in the community. I had my very much so part-time one-on-one clients let me know as needed when they wanted to come in. Now for my life, I planned my schedule around my kids. That was the first year that we were exposed to this different type of track schedule for my youngest son. So it took some getting used to, but we chose the track intentionally for the times that we knew we wanted to go out of town, whether it was to match the eldest and or low peak season for travel in terms of like how much it costs. So because we had got exposed to Paris and London and, we continued to go to Walt Disney World. So we were like, game on. So also I went to Walt Disney World a couple of times that year. I think I went 3. So I went one time for a live event. I think that was toward the latter part of the year. I believe that that wasn't the year. Okay, sorry. That was the year before. I was going to say that was the year that I hit that $1.8 million, but that was like 2022. That was like fast. So I remember we went to Disney Alani in January and in May. We also went in December. Hear me. We went to Disney Alani. I am a Vacation Club member. We have points, but going to Alani ain't cheap, okay? So we did split stays at Waikiki Beach. We funded one of our family members to come with us. He lived with us at the time. So I was in super duper overflow, right? That was also double dipping into what I call my CEO retreat, where my husband and cousin would take the kids somewhere and then I would have my own time to just rest, reset, recharge, and reflect, okay? So we went to Disney Alani 3 times. We went for our anniversary. We took my youngest son. We went in January with my family, and then we turned around again and went in December, the week before Christmas. I ain't brought it back since, but we brought back our Christmas Eve party where it was like a pajama party. Everybody came to my house. The reason why I say I won't do that again is because it was the day after we came back from Alani. And then we also on a regular do a Christmas brunch at my house while the kids open up their Christmas gifts. I was tired, clearly. And got to cook and all those things. Also what we did in 2023, we took the kids to a 7-day trip to Walt Disney World in July. So I was gone almost every single month. So let me do month by month. January, I was in Disney Alani. February, we had our Elite Coaching Therapist Mastermind. March, we went to Walt Disney World. And that was the first time I had stayed at the Grand Floridian, which is right next to the castle. If you know, you know. I also did a split stay and stayed at the Animal Kingdom. And I also went to one of my business coaches events. That was the first one that I went to that year. So I went to two. So then March, April, I don't know if I was home or did we go to Vegas for my husband's birthday? I don't remember. But April's a lot of birthdays. So we still ain't sitting still. Then in May, we went to Disney Alani and Waikiki Beach. May, June. June was graduation time, so we were getting prepared for July, so we chilled at home in June. In July, no, I lied. No, yeah, okay, I'm getting my years mixed up. I'm like, oh, well, maybe we went to Vegas. No, June, no. July, we went to Walt Disney World. August, my youngest son started school again, so we chilled at home. Both of the kids started school. September was my birthday. Just did like a low-key thing at home because I know that fourth quarter was about to be crazy, and just like this year. October is when we had our conference. And then November, we chilled at home. And then December, we went to Disney Alani. And listen, I was only able to do this, regardless if I was tired. I was only able to do this because of the time that I carved out, okay? So again, let me know how many days in the year do you want to take off, and are you serious about intentionally planning this out, okay? All right, I hope that you loved this educational and also uncut and me thinking out loud podcast episode. Again, this comes to you brought by one of my clients. From time to time, if there's something that's a serious or big breakthrough in one of our sessions, I'll be like, yo, I'm about to make a podcast episode about this, so I can walk y'all through exactly what I did. But I really like to do it in more storytelling time so that you can actually feel as I was going through it, you can put yourself in the narrative in the story as well. So I really hope that you like, content like this, and you want to build a life first business, especially if you're a service provider. I would highly recommend that you come on back, subscribe to the channel if you're watching and you just be watching my stuff and you ain't subscribed. Listen, 60% of people who watch my stuff is not subscribed. Ain't that crazy? So go ahead and subscribe so that you can be notified when I post a new video. Also, like this video so that the platform knows that people like you like this video so that it can show it to more people. Now, if you want to be part of a community where we're talking about dreaming big all the time, we're talking about exposure to streams of income so that you can know if you're ready to go into that stream of income, and then I will become your case manager to say, okay, well, if you want that stream of income, now I would say head over to our Private Practice Academy, or go buy this self-paced course, or go get this book and, et cetera, go to this live event. If you want a community to hold you accountable, to help you think big, to help you stay focused also in your business and also in your life, and every month we're going to start dropping exposure to some form of leverage streams of income and wealth, then check out the In Her Collective, okay? This is our new community effective 2025. And right now it's intimate. Our goal is to blow, our community out of the water in terms of how many people are part of our community. So spread the word. Whether you are a service provider, pre-licensed, licensed, seasoned, it does not matter. We want you in it. And I would love to see you over there. So if you want to join our In Her Collective, where we meet up virtually monthly, then check out the link below. And until then, I will talk to y'all in the next podcast and video. Bye.